Hey y'all. Hey there, Randy.
Are we on? Are we live?
I believe we are. It's
Hi,
really nice to see
Lisa.
you. I've missed you. I've missed
I
you the
know.
last few weeks. Been busy spending some time with my daughters and taking some nice long walks and deep breaths.
So hang on. I want to make sure that I see us, and I don't know
we're
where
we're
our
here.
live video would show up.
Up in the left corner of your screen, it should say live. And we've been
I know I'm looking for us on Facebook. So
oh,
it can tell me that I'm live, but until I see it on Facebook,
got it.
see that? I see it now, Lisa. Look, honey,
Oh, there you go. There we
there
are.
we are.
Super
So
cool. Wow.
yeah, so that's what I was trying to figure out.
How do
That
you
is
do it?
so cool. This is so much fun.
It
Thank you.
is.
Thank you, Trey Thomas Murphy, my friend and
Absolutely.
brother from another mother who
Right.
who
Yeah.
has been like a rock for Lisa and I. So it's been quite a fun journey. So let me see when we're on Facebook Live. I just want to see how this
We're
looks
here,
to my
Randy.
friends. I know I
We're
just want to
here.
see where my Facebook Live people
So Trey
are.
has been gracious enough to use his expertise as an editor and producer to help Randy and I figure out what platform is best to go on with Safe Space Live. And
Right.
last week we've talked about changing how we bring this to everybody because I think when we were doing the whole Zoom thing, it was just so much energy to try to get everybody coordinated in this way. People
Right.
could pop on and off, and it seemed a little more casual and certainly fits our personalities a little better, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah. And so what I was just going to say is that the ability, Lisa, for us to find people um, on Facebook Live versus getting people to agree to come into a Zoom session, that's going to be a much more limited number. And I feel like today, by us going live on Facebook this way, we're going to, I think we have to introduce ourselves. Like, I think there may be friends of mine that don't know you, friends of yours that don't know me. So I just want to back up and tell the story that back in April, beginning of April, or was it even in March, when you and I talked about going live and going on Zoom and doing this weekly thing that I had created. We wound up calling it Safe Space Live and allowing folks that really wanted to connect and talk to come into the Zoom. And we did that for a few weeks, which was great fun. But now it's like, I don't know, things are changing. And you're right. They have to agree to come to the Zoom. Then they've got to get the Zoom link and we've got to send
So,
this way. They see, oh, they're live. Let's see what they're talking about right
Randy,
now.
you were talking about introducing ourselves. So here it goes. My name is Lisa Paskel. I am an author of a book called Wild Ride to Bliss. It's a tool book to help people find their own inner connection and journey and alignment with their authentic and powerful, beautiful self. It also has a journal. I've been teaching and facilitating spaces in the yoga world for over 35 years. I am a healer, been a body worker. I am an artist. I'm a painter. Randy is an incredible voiceover. How would you say it?
Well, I'm a voiceover artist, but I started as a DJ. So I had a really long career as a disc jockey. And then I became a full-time voiceover artist and am still the voice of radio stations and around the country. So
we met years
we're
ago.
Michigan girls. We are Michigan girls. Motor City.
Go Michigan. Wait, I'm right here.
That's right. Where were you from?
I'm from there. Randy got in touch with me through a family member about 28 years ago or so, 25 years ago. Randy was trying to get pregnant, and I was doing body work, postural integration work, deep body healing work, and spiritual work. And Randy got in touch with me because she was having some stuff going on in her body and wanted to get pregnant, was struggling to get pregnant, and That's where our
Yeah,
relationship
you were a big
started.
help. You didn't have children yet because my
No,
daughter,
no, I didn't.
I guess, wait, so my daughter Rachel is turning 23. How old is Ella, your oldest?
Ella is turning 22. So I have two daughters, Ella Blue,
Right.
Layla Dream, and you have Rachel.
Hmm.
And about a year after you had Rachel's when I got pregnant. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So that doesn't go back 25 years because Rachel is 23. Oh, look, Trey put up your book,
Tracy,
Wild Ride to
hello,
Bliss.
Trey. So you can
He's
get my book on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, and I suggest getting the paperback because it has a journal in it. And actually, I have here, and in the back, if
Where's
you want
mine?
to do the journal, it's much easier to write in a paperback than a hard copy. I'd like to sell the hard copy. I'd make more money, but hey, it is what it is.
So what is Wild Ride to Bliss if you were going to
Well,
explain to people quickly?
I already did, Randy. I
But
said
that but it didn't start, you thought it was going to be your story, but then really it's
right. Well, that's the interesting thing about life. I was writing a book telling my life story and trying to also at the same time incorporate tools to help people find themselves. And I kept writing and writing and it just didn't click. And then one day, the whole book is about getting out of our story,
right.
out of our mind story, out of our past, out of the future, to stop telling the story of where we come from or how things should be or how we want them to be. And as soon as I realized that, I took myself virtually completely out of the book. There's a few quotes in there for me and, just really brief explanations of really small experiences, just if it's relevant to the tool. So I've eliminated probably 200 pages from the book because, everybody has a Drekisha story. Who needs to hear anybody's story? The idea is like, what's happening right now? Where
Right.
am
And
I?
how to get out of your story
Yeah.
and get moving in
Or just be
making things
present.
better.
Well, just be present. Just this moment is enough. So we use, I think, a lot of our past stories to try to validate where we are or use them as disclaimers for why we act or think a
Right.
certain way. And I think there are some stories that are beautiful to tell. I mean, we've all had incredible journeys and met amazing, interesting people along the way and traveled to wonderful places. But how exciting if we can be in the moment and only use those stories when they're relevant to helping somebody in a situation or to really share something of significance. But I think so often we use our stories, our past to make excuses for things, for lack of connection, for lack of intimacy. So what are you looking at over there? Are you getting some?
I'm trying to figure out, because we're live on Facebook, I had it and then I just lost it. But I was wondering if I could take this and then make it live on my own Facebook. But
Well,
I guess that's a different,
it runs
because
through.
we're live on Facebook.
That's
But I
right.
was just
It
trying
runs
to.
through. Let's not worry about that now. Let's just
Yeah, I
say.
know. I'm back in the conversation with you.
So
But
I have been on a journey in my life for my entire life, a spiritual journey ever since I can remember. When I was a little girl, I was tapping into what some people call spiritual energy, collective consciousness. And I didn't always understand that in my life, especially as a little girl and even as a teenager. And it wasn't until I had a death experience where I left my body and came back and met one of my spirit guides that I realized what was really happening. And from that space, Randy, I was able to use my channeling and use my Trey, take that picture down. Use my channeling to help facilitate a lot of experiences for people. I ran many life trainings, life retreats, yoga teacher trainings, and again through my book and coaching and working with people, that my channeling has been incredibly useful. And we were creating Safe Space Live as hopefully an opportunity for Randy and I to create dialogue and help people find answers and solutions from a greater consciousness. And
right.
the disclaimer with this is me, Lisa, I'm a work in progress.
Well,
When
we
I,
all are.
yeah,
Right.
but when I channel, there is a divine wisdom and an understanding for things that I even struggle to understand, that I'm able to articulate, not always with the greatest vocabulary. Maybe that's partly because I'm not the most educated human being, but it's sincere and it's authentic. And what Randy and I are hoping to do, by coming to you live, is to have conversations and take questions and allow for the channeling experience to happen.
Right. Well, because it's, I don't know how many people have seen someone channel before. It's not like a usual thing. Most people have not. And this is not woo woo. It's not like something really drastic happens to Lisa. And in fact, many years when she and I were friends and I would turn to her for advice, I don't know that I was really clear on the fact that she was really channeling the information. I just thought you were an incredibly wise, intuitive, and tapped in friend who could help me through stuff. Um, so, and I do think sometimes even just saying, oh, we're going to channel today. Like I have a lot of friends that they're very deep in their religion, and they have, Oprah ran into this problem in trying to bring spirituality to a lot of people. So I didn't ever want to like make people nervous, because I'm not known for, well, I guess I'm kind of known as a woo woo out there girl a little bit, just because
I don't think
I'm
it's
not.
woo. I think the thing about it that's so interesting is everybody is capable of being tuned in and tapped in. The problems,
Isn't that what we call intuition? If you're intuitive, or
there's an intuitive piece to it, but there's also, we're made up of energy. We're everything in the universe is made of pure energy. And so when you have an appliance and it's plugged in, it's going to receive energy and have an output, an input and an output.
Mhm.
The problem is that people are focused too much outside of themselves. And one of the things about this time space reality that we're in right now, this pandemic experience, is that people are more focused. They've had to be more focused on how they even do their daily routine, Randy. So
Absolutely, we've definitely gone through a lot of stuff
right.
with that.
So there's no better time. There's no better opportunity for people then to take that focus and start to turn it inward through meditation tools. Like there's 12 offered in the book that I wrote, and there's a gazillion books out there. And on YouTube, even, I think you could go learn basic meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to learn to connect to the breath, quiet. I think my mic's up too high. Quiet
Sounds good.
quiet our minds and step into our own sacred space. There's clarity in that space, and there's trust and strength in the vulnerability and the vastness of that space that we find when we turn our attention into ourselves. And the beauty of that is then we do become intuitive. See, I think for a lot of people, our instincts are
Mm-hmm.
incredibly
Mm-hmm.
really important to hear. Our instincts are incredibly suppressed. And what happens when our instincts, meaning our sensory nervous system, is incredibly suppressed, what happens is then we become very reactive. And that suppression creates so much anxiety for people, so much anxiety, because people are feeling things, but it's not getting filtered through the senses properly. And so there's a lot of fear associated with feeling, for instance, the experience of a pandemic.
Well, but no one has ever experienced it before, so of course we're going to feel fear. What else will we fear in a space where there is an unknowing and we're getting drastically different information through
Right.
the media? So where do we find our
The
happy
trust.
place?
So this is a really important topic that you bring up, because we are, like I said, sensory, nervous system, energy beings, right? We have this incredible radar system, and we have the ability to have senses, taste, sight, smell, touch, all these things, right? So when that's suppressed and a pandemic like this happens, the body is so wise. You think about it, there's like, I think 27 trillion cells in the body that are all operating independently, like a tiny little universe. There's magic happening in the body all the time.
Right.
So now we have this incredibly wise body that senses, literally energetically senses, fight or flight, the need to survive. So how we interpret that for ourselves, it feels like tremendous amount of fear. And you're right, there's a lot of information out there, and people are trying to sift through what's accurate, what's not. Can I touch another human being? Am I safe to breathe outside without a mask? All these things. But the body is definitely in a state of survival, panic for some people. But if we are shifting our focus inward and we're connecting and intuitive, there's a sense of trust and clarity, and there's a knowing how to be for oneself in connection to the whole, that we would have so much more clarity and peace for ourselves and with one another if we just took the time to bring that focus inward.
Right.
And that's so that fear, I don't like to call it fear. I'd like to say it's a response to an actual threat to physical well-being.
Right.
Fear is, there's a lot of funny names for it. False evidence appearing real, F everything and run. There's all kinds of names for fear. But survival is a different thing. And if we're not intrinsically connected to our abundance and our wellness, to that vast space within ourselves, some people call it God, universe, spirit, source. There's so many names that people have given this beautiful experience of being a spiritual human being. If we're not connecting to that, if we're living our lives superficially, which most people are, and I don't mean that insulting, it's just true. Well, then it feels like that fear, and then that false evidence that it's hard to sift through what's real and what's not.
Well, especially if you're watching the news. I mean, we've gone through a lot of changes. We're 8, almost 9 weeks into this self-quarantine environment, and turning to the news. And now there are all kinds of different kinds of news information that's coming to us. And a lot of people are like at their wits' end as far as wanting to stay in any longer. Most people want to just get out. And then we have doctors coming on saying, listen, the best thing for you to do is to go outside. And yet they're saying, no, beaches are closed. So even if you are a balanced person who is meditating or staying in the centering place amidst all of this unknowingness, how do we know what the right thing to do is? Like, well, I know you and I talk about this. I walk my dog where we live in Southern California. We have the ability to go out and get sunshine and breathe fresh air. And yet there are other people that are still afraid of that. There are other people who are driving in cars with masks on.
You asked a very good question. How do we know what's the right thing to do? And let's talk about that from a practical position, and from a position that is necessary for people to really grow and close the void of the unknown, right?
And as you get your articulation together on that, I just want to invite anyone that's listening, if you have any kind of a question, go ahead and pop it into the chat, and we would love to answer your question. But again, you're going to add on to how do we know what the right thing is?
Right. So just to be clear, like when I'm answering these questions, I'm definitely in a channel mode. My opinion often is not at the level of my ability to channel. So,
right. Hi, Tina.
Hi, Tina. I know Dennis was on before too.
Yeah, Dennis is somewhere. Yeah. These are some of our regulars who have been a part of this. And I have a feeling a lot of people who have never seen you channel or do anything will be popping in here. And so I know you were going to answer that bigger question, but I had gotten a question this week from someone.
Well, why don't we start with that question and then do the other question? Because
go ahead. You ask yours. I'll write mine down so I don't forget where I got this.
So what's really important for us to understand is whenever we listen to other people to find out what is right for us, we lose. Now, I'm not saying that we should not listen to experts. There are people I know that if my washer and dryer are broken, I need to listen to an expert. They need to come in and fix it. But there's a place before that in how and who we choose to listen to, and the way we choose to listen is very important. So if one is listening without connection to one's deeper, knowing, authentic, broad spectrum, all positive self, then you're hearing with ears that are reactive. And then it's like being a dog on a leash. You're being, who's pulling who? The owner or the dog. But when one is connected to themselves, there is an intuitive experience that allows for a human being to know, decipher between what is right and wrong. There's great teachings in Eastern Indian philosophies and Buddhist philosophies that when people are connected to that grand, beautiful inner being space, they know the difference between right or wrong, and there's no need for governing. Even this is an ideal and it's a higher teaching, but people will do the right thing. And so what is the right thing? Well, when we learn love and respect for ourselves, when we learn to truly love ourselves and connect to the love that is who we are, right? We already are that love. When we connect to what that is, there's a love and respect, a compassion, and an empathy for other beings. So, for instance, I might not need a mask because I may or may not be sick, but you might need me to have a mask on because you could get sick. There's choices I'll make on the behalf of the whole, not just myself. So in any great teaching right now, no matter who you're listening to, if they are at all tuned in, the one thing that you're going to hear over and over again is meditate. Take some time to quiet your mind. Now, the problem with that is that there's this esoteric belief around meditation. Somehow you're saying, Om Shanti Shanti Om 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 Om. There's that. There's also just the relaxing of the body, or relaxing into one's own breath. And that is enough movement, enough of a shift, Randy, and everybody out there, to help one start to tap into that ease, that word that you like, that place of truth. And it's not about then saying, okay, now I know that's true and that's not true. There's a trust. The trust of you can feel in your solar plexus. It's like the higher part of your stomach and your lower belly as well. When something, I love Trey's pictures, when something isn't right, and you can feel deeply when something feels good. And the way to gauge that is to listen to the body. So getting quiet in one's body and learning to relax the body is very important. That's different than resting. Scanning our bodies and feeling the body relax is very different. You can be laying in bed and you can have your butt cheeks clenched and your hands clenched, your jaw clenched, and not even realize you're doing that. But as we start to relax and learn to relax the body and invite the breath in and slow everything down, there's a connection and there's a knowing. And I think that is probably the most efficient and relevant way that we could start to connect to feeling our intuition, that thing that you were bringing up earlier in the conversation.
You're talking about meditating and breath. Is that where you're going with this as far as
meditation? Because for a lot of people listening here today, meditation is a very scary foreign concept. So let's even take it to a softer version, just relaxation.
Mhm.
Relaxing the body and scanning the body and connecting to the breath, the mind will start to soften for people. And in that place, we start to feel ourselves differently. So, what I'm trying to say to you, and I hope this is clear, is that when we're in that relaxed state and we start to connect to our sensory nervous system and we begin to connect to our quote unquote our senses, when we are faced with a circumstance, with experience, right, we will feel intuitively in our body if something feels right or it doesn't. And also, another indicator is through our emotions. If you feel bad, if you feel worried, if you feel afraid, angry, disappointed, you're not in a good vibration. You're not in connection with your authentic self, because the authentic self is only loving. And in that place, in that ease, in that sense of broad, infinite connection and awareness, we are able, quite able, to feel what's right and what's wrong, what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And then we can respond rather than react.
So at this time in our lives, for the first time ever, the world has been shut down. So while I appreciate you speaking to internally, we'll know, but at this moment in time, regardless of what we think, we have the government telling us what we can and can't do. So I feel, I'm just going to assert this, that at this point in our staying in, people are reaching a wall and they're saying, no more. You can't tell me that the sun is not good for me, that walking outside is not good for me. You can't keep me inside and afraid anymore. So that's what I'm feeling is maybe what people are feeling. So, because you're talking about get in touch, you know.
Right. And I believe that, well, first of all, I don't want to step back into the past, but if people were, if the whole of people, meaning the majority of people, were more connected in the first place, we probably wouldn't even be experiencing a pandemic.
Right. Well, there's 8 billion people on the planet. So
Right.
what are the chances?
About less than 1% of humanity makes real internal connection. And so that's an issue in itself. Randy, I think that there was such an explosion of the way this all came down. People didn't know what to do. And I think that, again, there has to be a general respect for one another. And we have more information, meaning we understand this virus more. But this is the thing. This isn't the only virus out there right now. And we don't have,
and there'll always be another.
We don't have solutions and cures for many viruses and illnesses, but this is a big one, and it's hit the world very hard. And it's a wake-up call. So maybe this is, we needed to be put in our room, so to speak, so that we could learn to be more appreciative and respectful of one another, to become less greedy, to take the time to be more thoughtful of how we interact with other people in our communities, in our families. And maybe as we, come out of this submergence and start to emerge into the world, it's with more thoughtfulness. I don't think, I don't know if we'll ever go back to handshaking. I mean, there's something beautiful about greeting one another.
About this. I agree.
Need to be
certainly no kiss,
There's, we can get angry at ourselves and a government or governments around the world for putting us in quarantine. I personally feel quite grateful. I feel very appreciative for the downtime. I've seen so much beauty in our solar system, in this universe, for our planet, for the earth, for the oceans, the air quality. I've seen people who have been in jobs that they couldn't stand, and even though there's a financial fear, that finally got off the treadmill. I have so much faith in people to be creative, especially the younger people today. I have a daughter graduating college, one graduating high school. Things are not the same as they were
Right.
people even a year ago. So there's an opportunity for creativity right now.
I want
People
to say I feel the same way too. I feel like this downtime has been very big, very important for me. Can I throw in a question to you?
absolutely. Who's it coming from?
So Tom wrote, I'm trying to stay optimistic, but I'm really stressed about my personal finances. Do you have any recommendations? And that's one of the things I was talking about. People are saying, like, I've got to get back to
Right.
making money. And hopefully those things have shifted, but I'll let you and Mama take that question.
Unfortunately, I don't believe that as a collective there's a big enough shift into the understanding of what needs to change. Um, so I do understand why people want to get back to work, and I this is going to be very challenging for people. And again, this is not what people want to hear because they look at what is as opposed to experiencing what they want. Meaning, and this is a very difficult concept for people to wrap their head around because our minds are in the habit of believing and this is what I see, this is what I'm experiencing, so this is what it is, don't tell me it's different. But the only way to shift something is to raise the vibration of what that thing is that you want. For instance, if you're asking for money,
Right.
from a space of having no money, the ask is coming from a vibrational energy of depletion, deprivation, not having. So this is where it gets a little tricky, and people sometimes feel agitated when the suggestion is given. And again, I write about this in Wild Ride to Bliss. It changed my life using these tools. I developed these tools out of a desire and a need for myself to shift and to find deeper meaning and connection. And out of that space grew a tremendous amount of abundance, wealth, health, opportunity. So, what if you imagined that you had, let's just say, $1 million? Let's just play with it. And you gave yourself the ability to use your imagination without any disclaimers and just enjoyed having $1 million. What would it feel like? So this is how I do it, how Lisa does it. I rampage in it. Well, first of all, it feels like security. It feels good. It feels good. It feels exciting. I feel free. Wow, free, generous, capable. I feel giving. I feel powerful. I feel comfortable. I feel secure. Well, like, I can get myself into a higher space. Now, the person who doesn't have money, and I was that person for a long time, says, but I don't have the money. I don't have the job. Well, if I'm in that place going, I need money, I need to get a job, I'm putting out an energy. And the universe is, people write about this. There's a book called The Secret. There's people like Abraham Hicks. There's so many great people that write about the law of attraction, the law of the universe. My book was channeled through the laws of the universe. Like attracts onto like. It's so simple. So if we focus on the reality that we're in and it's not what you like, and it's so much more enjoyable to enjoy the fantasy of having what you want, why choose what you don't like when you can choose what feels so good? And it's hard for people to wrap their mind around. But if you really allow yourself to do it, I pranced around walking miles sometimes like I was a queen and the trees were parting for me. And I mean, I had this whole thing. I was madly in love in a relationship. People were like, who are you with? I'm like, so in love. I'm having the time of my life. This is so wonderful. I didn't have anybody in my life that I was seeing exclusively or doing anything with, but I was enjoying being in love. I was enjoying love for love's sake. I was enjoying having wealth for wealth's sake and enjoying sharing and giving. And Oh, I loved in my mind. I travel first class in my mind all the time. It was so much fun. Like I created these things, and some people could say, well, that's, batshit crazy right there. But it's not. Because when we raise our vibration, that's when we start to see the shift. So the person who is worried about money right now, worry is going to get you more worry.
Mm,
And
yeah.
again, I wrote again, and not to keep
Yeah.
the book, but I wrote a book with tools to help you get out of those things. The most important thing is tell the story that you want to be living in right now, and then feel it. Feel it. And when you really start to feel it and ramp up into it, you'll get a phone call. You'll have an instinct, especially if you're doing that relaxing the body, connecting to the breath meditation thing. You'll have an instinct to, I think I'll just go left here. I always go right, I'll go left here. You'll know what to do, and you'll be surprised at the opportunities that open up for you, because the universe is not lacking in abundance.
Right.
Only our thinking is.
Sometimes we think of it as serendipity or, wow, I couldn't believe it. I had a shift. I decided I was going to think about this. And then you go and get a cup of coffee, and the person in line behind you is exactly who you've been trying to meet. You know what I mean? You never know. We have a question from Rebecca. She said, what can I do about my anxiety regarding the pandemic? And then and let me just roll into the third question from Robert. I'm new to meditation. What are some simple things that I can do?
Okay. Well, those are two separate things. So let's start with anxiety. So anxiety is a physiological um, experience in the body that our mind perpetuates. So there's a discord, a disconnect to one's physical nervous system, and then the mind reacts to it, right? Or the mind, this is anxiety in the reverse. The mind gets stuck on a thought and does not allow for connection to one's body. So it's a paradigm, right? So when I work with anxiety, what I first want to tell people is there's a moment or a few moments, several moments for some people prior to the actual anxiety attack, where the breathing changes and the body starts to clench and almost feels like one is having a heart attack, where we know that something is off, right? So I tell people anxiety is that red flag that goes up and says, you're not connecting. You're not connecting. Now, if you can catch it in that period right before you get ramped up into it, look at this picture, then what will happen for you is you can sit down, and that'll lead into the next question, and start to get quiet with yourself. You can start to relax the body. So the first thing I would tell people to do is, if you can, if you're in a safe place where you can either sit down or lay down, you want to start wiggling your toes and fingers. It's a really simple technique because it takes the mind off of what it's vacillating on, right? What it's focused on intensely, and it just moves the attention a little bit. And then the suggestion would be to just place a hand on the heart, a hand on the belly, and just feel your breath. Don't even try to make it different. And then thank the anxiety, thank the notification, because you have to make it, you have to allow it to be your friend. It's notifying you that you're not connecting. And so by placing the hand on the heart, the hand on the belly, and saying thank you, you'll get a pause, you'll get a break, a little bit of space from that anxiety. And in that little bit of space, you'll be able to sneak in a few soft, gentle breaths. And all of a sudden, you start to feel your whole nervous system come down slowly and slowly and slowly. And then you'll start to feel a different connection physically to your body and your nervous system, which will, these pictures are killing me,
Hmm.
which will allow you to go beyond the obsession. Well, that's not the right word.
Fixation.
The fixation. Thank you. On what you were beginning to feel anxious about or starting to experience. Trey, can you take that picture down? It's really distracting.
Okay. Yeah, those are nice. We can pop them in for accent and then pull them away.
The simple tools, the most simple and practical tool for meditation is to either sit in a comfortable position. If you can, cross your legs, in in a seated position. Here, let's see if I can give you. I have sweatpants on. In a seated position, I often sit like that. If that's not comfortable, you can sit in a chair. If neither is comfortable, you can lay down on your back. We want to try to keep our spine open. We want to keep our back open. Remember, I was talking about this anatomic central nervous system that we have, and our spine is so cool. It's like it has nerves running up and chakras running up and down the spine to the back of the neck, which is called the occiput. And from our tailbone all the way up the back of the neck to the crown of the head, it acts like an antenna. So if we don't have to lean up against something, if you are somebody who's practiced good posture and have, well-built muscular system, you might not need to lean up against something. But I want to not.
I'm a leaner.
It's okay. Well, it's okay to lean. Also, it's just probably get a quicker result if you're not leaning. That's all. But I'm going to lean back. And now simple direction would be, again, just placing the hand on the heart, a hand on the belly. We're not going to do it now together.
Right.
And then I would invite you to close your eyes and just draw your attention to your breath. Just notice your inhales and the exhales. And as I've suggested to people many times before, when we place our hand on our chest, the breath naturally begins to drop a little lower into the belly. And that in and of itself is so helpful for people because most people breathe so shallow out of protection of their emotions. They don't want to feel. So they're trained to just breathe very shallow. So just being able to drop the breath down will give you a sense of coming down and ease. And then you can watch the rise of the breath, which is the inhale. And then you'll notice in between the inhale and the exhale is a pause. And if you just let yourself hold that pause for a few seconds and then really slowly let go of the exhale. And at the bottom of that exhale, there's another sweet little pause. Little more challenging to hold the pause at the bottom of the exhale.
Same amount as when you're at the top of the exhale?
It's slightly different. It's a little harder because the mind wants to race into another inhale. But the idea would be to slow down the breathing enough to feel and experience the pause. So what I like to do, and this is a basic Kriya type of meditation, and honestly, you can even go on YouTube and type in Kriya breathing techniques, and so many pop up. There's so many beautiful practitioners out there that work with breath. But for purposes of keeping it simple, I simply like to do this with my mouth open when I start. So the inhale and exhale. So this is after I've just watched my breathing for a moment or two, right? And then I'll take in anywhere from 6 to 15 breaths like this. I'll finish an exhale and I'll take it in from the literally the root of my groin area. So I lift it up slightly. I don't want to clench too much. And I take in an inhale like this. And I'm holding it with my focus at the crown of my head. And then letting go with 2 breaths. And holding it. And when I've done that, like I said, minimum of 6 times, sometimes up to 15, 20 times. And I use my fingers or beads to count so my mind doesn't have to think about how many times I'm experiencing this. Once I've hit 6, 10 times, I turn my attention and I just turn my eyes up in my head and I breathe quietly with my palms open in my lap, my thumb and index finger touching. And I just sit back and breathe until I feel complete. And sometimes it's 5 minutes and sometimes it's a half an hour.
And you don't even know, like the time just goes by. But see, I do it differently. And is there a right way or a wrong way? I'm a nasal breather. I don't like to breathe in and out of my mouth. I feel like I hyperventilate that way. So I only go in through the nose, out through the nose, because that's how I do yoga breath. Is that wrong or right?
No, it's different than this is Kriya breathing, which there's a great science to Kriya breathing. I personally I think it shoots people in very quickly into their inner being space. But again, like I said in the book, there's 12 exercises, different techniques to get people to their breath and to that meditative place. And again, just even sitting, breathing, Randy, after the Kriya breathing, you don't breathe through your mouth anymore. You stop breathing, you breathe through your nose. But again, just sitting and focusing on the inhale, pause, exhale, pause is enough to just begin to relax. We don't want to try too hard when we're meditating.
Right.
We want to allow it to unfold naturally and beautifully, but there is a science to meditation. So first learn to relax. First learn to relax your body. Learn to just even breathe. Have an awareness of breath. Once you do that, again, it's amazing how we will be literally driven to inspired to techniques that fall into place for who you are as an individual.
Right.
There isn't a right or wrong. This is the beauty of it. This is the beauty of channeling. Everybody is a vessel for connection to their maker, to whatever you believe in, to the greater, expansive, infinite possibility. And when we turn our attention internal in this way, and there is no wrong way, what happens is we do connect to that intuition. We do experience our anatomic nervous system. We do experience our senses in such a beautiful, exciting way. We don't have to look outside of ourselves as much for entertainment because we start to recognize the magnificence of just being in this human experience. From that place, we know how to emerge back into connecting with one another again. And it is so important to do that. If you're not experiencing anxiety and you're somebody that does sometimes, or with this new experience we're in, you're experiencing anxiety, practicing these tools, I call it putting the checks in the bank, because they'll be there for you to access when you do get thrown off. I get thrown off sometimes. I get just thrown right off the peak. And it's just, sometimes it takes a minute, sometimes a couple days to find that balance or that center again. But when there's checks in the bank, when we've been doing a practice consistently, consistency of practice, creates the success that we want for ourselves. Meaning, if I'm going to have an anxiety attack, I can sense it before, it's like signaling me when it's like a mile away. And me, Lisa, I can sit down and go, whoa, this is coming. Okay, what's this about? But before I even try to figure that out, let me calm the whole system down here.
Right.
Let me check myself before I wreck myself.
I like that. And so I hope that was a helpful response for you, Robert. A lot of people say they don't know how to meditate. I watch Dr. Joe Dispenza, I watch Deepak, and when they're meditating, and even Dr. David Perlmutter, the one thing, these three leaders that I find fascinating to watch every day, David Perlmutter for the latest health information, Deepak, the global level of a pandemic and how we can all, basically what you're speaking to right now. And then Joe Dispenza, who does talk about, he's just beyond brilliant. And he talks about playing out in the matrix. And then he says, when you're in the matrix and you are meditating and really in that perfect space, you You find your peace, you find your calm, you seem to know the answers. And more than that, the word serendipity that we spoke of before, things just happen that are taking you closer to your dream. I always, in my work, Lisa, with people that I coach, that want to, for instance, maybe learn voiceover work or get more creative with their lives, I always say there is no time other than now for you to figure out what it is you want to do for the rest of your life. And if you went into this lockdown not happy with what you were doing or where you were at, we're about to come out of it. And I got a question here from
hang on one second, real quick, Randy, because we've been on for a while. You talk about these people. There's so many great scientists, biologists on the leading edge of our science today that are understanding this collective conscious factor. They call it the love factor, actually. There's Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza. There's so many, Greg Braden. There's so many people out there that really can help people understand from a scientific experience. I just wanted to affirm that.
Right. Yeah. I know nothing about science. I just know that when I get in this space of meditating, that everything, all is good in the world. All is right in the world. When I'm in my practice, when I forget and I think I know better and I don't take the time to center myself is where I get out of balance.
And again, it needs to be a consistent practice, because what happens is you can feel good and the habits of the mind are very powerful. And so the consistency of practicing relaxation meditation is so important, because then it gives us also an opportunity to stand back from our reactive minds and start to study ourselves. So we see where we're living in a personality and attachments and stories rather than from that authentic, natural, abundant space. And there's a big difference. And the mind is tricky. Our egos are tricky. So we want to be careful, meditate, and start to learn about ourselves from the experience of ourselves.
Yes, that sounds beautiful.
What's the next question?
So I think we're going to have to wrap this up because I am getting copy for another show that I work for. ABC needs something. But Jan asked, she went into this, I think that's why I alluded to it before, not really happy with where she was in her life. And now here we are 9 weeks later, and she's feeling all bad and guilty about the fact that she doesn't think she did enough during her downtime. So now she's gonna, we're opening, right?
Well, first of all, this is the funny thing, even the way that you just said that our downtime, there's no finish line or beginning line on when we're supposed to take a look at ourselves and connect with ourselves. So because we become more active again in our communities, in society, in connection with the world, there's no, okay, now your time's over. So do not go inward, do not reflect, do not meditate, do not seek answers. Nope, that time has now been allotted and over. You're done, you're finished. That's silly. This is not the end. This is a beginning. This is an opportunity. This is about growth. This time is just barely a kickstart to the endless potential and opportunities that we have for growth. So Jan, is it? I want to encourage you. You're not behind. You haven't lost anything. You're not dismissed. There's no shame or guilt. It's just, it's your process. And what is going to inspire you to take responsibility to find your internal practice, to know yourself authentically so that you intuitively know what you want to be doing based on your nature. See, we all have what's called a vasana, intrinsic nature. My nature is to be creative, to connect, to be artistic, to teach, to help. And somebody's intrinsic nature might be with numbers, another person every might be to cook. Everybody has a nature and a way that they express, and the only way to know that is by giving oneself the opportunity to connect. So you haven't lost your turn in line. You haven't lost time. You haven't lost anything. If your awareness is, I could have done more, then just start here with a little bit at a time. There's too much pressure. This is part of the problem. We put too much pressure on ourselves, too much expectation about the wrong things. If we want to have expectation, expect to be fabulous. Expect to love yourself for the magnificent experience of a being that you are. Expect to be in love. Expect to feel good. Expect to feel abundant. Expect to know that you're creating your reality. Like I said earlier, Jan, Randy, we create our reality. So why not create the one that you want to have? Tell that story.
Yeah.
The expectation can be such a positive thing. It doesn't have to be so shaming and debilitating. That's all I have to say.
I agree. We were going to do a whole thing and talk about hope, and now the window here is closing, but I do feel very hopeful. I feel that the timing of this and the fact that it's summer and the days are longer and we can get out there pretty much, other than back east where they had snow this past weekend, but that too will change, and we'll have sunshine everywhere. So I feel like this is such a hopeful time. And that is why we got into this to begin with, Lisa, because we were calling it Safe Space Live so that people could just talk about what was on their minds. And I thank you guys for the questions you've submitted.
Awesome.
I think we should do this again. Let's do this on Facebook so we can make it easy for people. And yeah, and now we don't have to just do it like Monday at 4:00. We can do this anytime.
Because people, you all out there watching, you can actually send in questions during the week, and then we can channel for you and have dialogue about what it is that you're interested in discussing. But one thing I want to say real quick about hope. Hope is a first step into great joy. And so hope is willingness and openness, and hope is the beginning of taking responsibility and feeling one's own power.
Taking respect and feeling one's own power. Beautiful.
I want to tell you all to stay well, stay positive, stay healthy, feel all your emotions authentically, but don't lose sight that you are the most powerful connection you have. Mm-hmm. And if you give yourself the opportunity to just feel your breath, start there, relax your body, I promise you there's a wonderland in there that is far more magnificent than any mountain range or ocean you'll ever see with your eyes.
Yeah.
I look forward to connecting with you all. Randy Thomas, you are a light on this earth. You're beautiful. And let me just say something real quick about Randy. Randy, likes to put people together for good things. She gets excited and has such a good heart and wants everybody to feel the good things that she feels. And I love that you've invited me to do this with you. And Trey Murphy Thomas, who is behind the scenes on this. You guys, this guy has been through the ringer and back, and he shows up wanting to be a part of something positive too. And his life is shifting because he's starting to get quiet with himself. And just in doing that, his life and his connection with the people in his life is improving so much. And I feel so blessed. There he is. Yay,
Trey. He came into the mix.
So incredibly blessed. Anyway, with that being said, let us all just take a moment, a prayer for all the people who are suffering, for the nurses, the doctors, the people on the front lines, for each and every one of us who has the courage to not be a part of the herd, but to go deep within ourselves to find truth and authenticity, and then to emerge in communion with one another rather than in a herd experience. To this, I say, namaste, many blessings. Can't wait to be with you again.
Namaste. That's beautiful. Thank you. But speaking to the herd, I just want to make that word. We want herd immunity. We don't want to travel with the pack, the herd, but we do need herd immunity. So hopefully we're going to get out there sooner than later and all start developing that immunity that we need. And obviously meditation can kick your immune system up to even empower you even more as we begin to move out again. So thank you guys. Yes, Lisa?
I just said connecting to wellness. Let's end this. Have a good night, everybody.
Love you. Have a good night. Talk to you guys soon.